And joining us now is MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian and MSNBC legal analyst, former Manhattan Assistant DA Catherine Christian. Catherine, just based on Monica's breakdown, what we know right now, do you see anything that would warrant an investigation into Christopher Wray, let alone potential charges?
No, it appears, again, this is yet another person who is on an enemy's list, to borrow the Nixon's phrase, and let's just investigate whether or not there's probable cause of the crime has been committed. It's just, it seems, the president said justice. It seems like it's more of a payback for perceived wrongdoing. And so, no, they're there, at least on the surface. We'll keep track of that. We're also getting fresh reaction to the James Comey indictment. Here's just the latest from Republican lawmakers.
James Comey lied to Congress. Okay, he took an oath. He said things to Congress that were simply not true. It's called perjury.
This isn't about what he did to the president. It's about lying to Congress and obstructing justice. And that's what he was indicted for.
I believe he withheld exculpatory information from the court because he wanted Trump to be found guilty. I think there's a conspiracy charge that could be made.
Ken, I have to wonder, what kind of a test case was this for the Trump administration, this Comey indictment? And is this the reaction they expected, which is very little blowback?
I think so, because, look, their base has been marinating in these conspiracy theories for years that James Comey was part of a deep state plot to unseat Donald Trump. And you heard Lindsey Graham there. He wasn't actually talking about the underlying case, the perjury case that they brought against Mr. Comey. He's talking about some other thing regarding the Russia investigation, which he is obsessed with, and which an inspector general has found was essentially, with some mistakes by the FBI, properly predicated and reasonably brought. And so, yeah, I think obviously a lot remains to be seen about how this plays out in court. So we don't know yet what lessons the Trump Justice Department is going to learn from this. If they are completely repudiated by a judge, they could learn a different kind of lesson on it.
When you hear the vice president there saying in interviews that he expects more indictments to come, what do you think that the message is here to anyone who's ever spoken out against Trump? I mean, he hasn't been, the president, secretive about some of the names that he hopes his Department of Justice begins to go after here.
Well, it's clearly a threat. It's designed to instill fear and intimidation and perhaps send people to the sidelines. If people are used as scapegoats for their past investigations into Donald Trump, it could cause others to decide to put their heads down and to be silent for fear that they could be next. You know, Donald Trump has famously referred to himself as a counterpuncher. And often Melania Trump has said, but when he punches back times 10. I think that is the tactic we're seeing here in an effort to cow any of his critics.
You wrote a really, I thought, great piece for MSNBC.com where you talk about the impact of going after James Comey, despite the reporting that we've done here at MSNBC, that the office said, we don't think we have enough here to actually go forward and charge him. One of the things that you said that caught my attention is the fact that this could get thrown out before it actually gets into true legal proceedings. The judge might look at this and say, there's actually not enough here. But is the point just showing that they can do an indictment, less about the actual case itself? I mean, what do you see happening here?
Yes, it seems that, you know, they were able to muster enough evidence to convince a grand jury that there was probable cause. The charges themselves, to me, look quite weak, and I'm confident that James Comey will ultimately prevail. But just being indicted alone is enough to upend somebody's life. You are publicly humiliated. You have to endure the expenses of legal fees and the emotional toll it takes on yourself and your family. And so other people are going to see that and say, no, thanks, I don't want to go through that. And so it, again, may cause them to silence themselves when they might otherwise be critical or take action against Donald Trump.
It's not just James Comey. There has been reporting, the New York Times laid it out in list form. Some of the others that President Trump has publicly and privately encouraged his Department of Justice to investigate and potentially charge: John Bolton, Letitia James, Adam Schiff, John Brennan, Fani Willis, and now we should add Christopher Wray. And we should just take the president at his word. He said so on Friday to reporters. There will be others. This is the politicization and, yes, weaponization of the Justice Department for a president for his political gain.
Yeah, and Jonathan, he couldn't be more clear about it. I mean, it's not just, I mean, you mentioned a couple people there, Adam Schiff and Letitia James. They were in the same Truth Social post that Trump put out now a little over a week ago, telling Pam Bondi that he wanted to see Jim Comey prosecuted, and not just telling her that he wanted to see him investigated or prosecuted, but declaring his guilt in advance, saying he's guilty as hell. There's so many layers of the politicization and the weaponization going on in a post like that. But the rest of these people we saw is almost as soon as the Comey indictment came out, we got the reporting that Fani Willis was being investigated. Now, the woman who investigated Trump in the Georgia vote stealing case. And that was just a few hours later. And you saw Pam Bondi go on television over the weekend and basically say, this is the new order of things. Those who, in their view, weaponize the justice system against Donald Trump will now be, quote, held accountable. And I will say that, you know, again, this is a thing that could take an hour to kind of tease apart. But even if you take some measure of the notion that there were political motivations, and you accept that there were some politics in some of the prosecutions or attempted prosecutions of Donald Trump, what there was never was anything that looked like a president of the United States, whether that be Joe Biden or Barack Obama, saying to their attorney general directly and in public, I would like to see Donald Trump prosecuted and he's guilty as hell. Now, I know that might seem like a distinction without a difference if you believe that there is a deep state and you believe that the Democratic establishment was out to get Donald Trump. But to John Meacham's point, it is not a distinction without a difference. It's a distinction with a difference, because if a president of the United States can directly order his or her Justice Department to prosecute their political enemies and opponents, we have fully crossed the line into the land of authoritarianism. And that is the line that I think we have now, if not fully crossed, we're definitely on the wrong side of as of 1 week ago.
What you're watching right now is the destruction of the Department of Justice under Donald Trump. The indictment of James Comey is not about law, it's about loyalty. Career prosecutors said there was no evidence. A respected U.S. attorney refused to bring charges, and Trump fired her and installed someone who would do his bidding. Lindsay Halligan stood before a grand jury alone, unprecedented for an office with hundreds of lawyers. That's not real justice, that's raw political control. Trump calls Comey a dirty cop on Truth Social, knowing full well that words like that poison the public before a single fact is even heard in court. He boasts that FBI agents are cheering these charges, but inside the DOJ, lawyers know that the case is weak and likely doomed. And yet, Comey's life is already upended. That's the point. Indict first, destroy reputations, and dare the courts stop him. And then maybe after that you'll find some real charges. Vice President J.D. Vance says that more indictments are coming. That's not the promise of the law, but the threat to Trump's enemies. Fani Willis, who prosecuted Trump in Georgia, now faces subpoenas for her travel records. All of his enemies suddenly facing these random indictments. Christopher Wray, Trump's own FBI pick, is floated as a target over baseless conspiracy theories about January 6th. Letitia James and Adam Schiff are in Trump's crosshairs too, so this is not about evidence, it's about intimidation of his political enemies. Trump wants his critics silenced through fear. Even conservative voices like the National Review and Wall Street Journal are calling this indictment incomplete and politically motivated. It's that obvious. When both the left and the right agree that the charges are weak, you know that this is not about the rule of law, it's about power. And here's the danger to you. If Trump can order prosecutions of political opponents, nobody is safe. Today it's Comey, tomorrow it'll be journalists, activists, or anyone who stands in his way. This is how authoritarians operate. They turn justice into punishment and prosecutors into henchmen. Don't let Trump normalize this. Don't let him convince you that this is draining the swamp. It's the opposite. It's filling the swamp. It's poisoning the system to protect one man's ego. The question is no longer about Comey's guilt or innocence. The question is whether America will allow its justice system to continue to become Trump's personal weapon. Don't allow Trump to make this behavior seem ordinary. Don't accept his claim that this is about accountability. It's the exact opposite. It's about bending the system to shield his ego and punish his rivals. The issue is no longer whether James Comey committed a crime or not. The issue is just whether America will stand by while the justice system is twisted into Trump's personal tool of retaliation. If he actually did something, then the legal system would do it. Why does Trump have to get involved?